Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary with the GetSome Podcast. And my guest this week is...
This motherfucker Gary.
What up? What's up, everybody? This is Gary with the GetSome Podcast. And I am recording this from the lovely Albany, New York. Never been here before. Had a show tonight. We'll say Albany, the crowd was lit. It was lit. Is that better? You know what's interesting about, about the tour I'm on right now? This is the third city I've been in that I see another comic is there, and it's random. Like a couple weeks ago, I was in Fresno. Trevor Wallace was there. Last week, I was in Tucson, and on a Sunday, I ran into Howie Mandel on the sidewalk. We just started talking. We're both in Tucson the same night, different theaters. Then tonight, I'm in Albany, and Bert Kreischer is at the other theater. I was at a place called The Egg. Bert was at a place called the Palace Theater. So it's just random to be, because they're not like, Tucson's a big city, Albany's a big city, Fresno's a big city, but they're not huge. And it's not known as a comedy hotbed. So to have two comedians on off nights at two different theaters in both these cities, and all three of these cities, it's just, I don't know, it's just not a fun fact, but just something I wasn't expecting in these markets. You expect that in like Chicago, LA, New York. There's always going to be somebody else there. But in these markets, you just, you don't expect it. So this Saturday, I'm in Brooklyn for the first time ever at the King's Theater. So I'm looking forward to that. But more importantly, Saturday, since I'm in Brooklyn, I got reservations before my show at my favorite steakhouse on earth, Peter Luger's in Brooklyn. I don't know if I'm more looking forward to the show or Peter Luger's. I don't know what it is about that steakhouse. I think has something to do with the sauce. But I'm a steakhouse guy. I like a good steak. I like a good Caesar salad, a good wedge salad. That's usually all I order. I don't really order sides anymore. If I go to steakhouse, I might get some oysters, but I'm pretty much getting a salad and a steak. And Peter Luger's, let me tell you something. If you've never been, they got one in Vegas now inside Caesar's Palace. They got one in Brooklyn. I think they got another one somewhere else in New York. But I don't know if it still is. It used to be a cash-only restaurant. But the steaks, they bring it out and they cook it in all this butter. And like the plate is sizzling. So if you got a medium rare steak, like you could just take your fork and douse it on the plate and it sizzles right in front of you. And then they got these big ass tomatoes. And I'm not a super tomato guy, but I'd be killing these big ass tomatoes at Peter Luger's. And the bacon, appetizer bacon, obviously if you're Muslim, you can't try that. But if you're not Muslim, you don't mind eating bacon, get the bacon. And you know, it's wild. You know, it's really good. It's crazy. Get coffee, and they got this schlag. It's like some kind of cream, almost like a whipped cream, half whipped cream. I don't know, but you take a scoop of that, dump that in the coffee, mix it up. And I like my coffee black. But at Peter Luger's, I be putting that schlag in that coffee. So I'm going to eat super clean for the next few days. So when I go to Peter Luger's, I'm getting it in. Not that I mean that bad, but still, the steak and the tomatoes and the bacon and then the coffee with schlag. Oh, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I ain't gonna lie. So also rode the subway for the first time this week in New York. Yeah, I was in New York for a couple of days. I did the Breakfast Club. I did this podcast called Are You Garbage? And then I did an interview with Complex News, Complex Magazine. So all three interviews went amazing. I will say, when the Breakfast Club interview airs, and I don't know if it's going to air by the time this podcast airs or it's going to air Monday next week, I don't know. When it airs and you watch it, I go in on every comic that's ever had a Netflix special. So I teed it up where I started to go in on Monique, because that was easy. You know, she had her beef with the Breakfast Club. They got her picture on the wall. I'm not on the wall at the Breakfast Club. But I knew that was an easy one. And then they thought I was just like picking on Monique, but then I started going on, I went in on Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Sebastian Maniscalco, Matt Wright. Anybody ever had a Netflix special? Earthquake, Lunel. I went off on the Netflix special. Like, it was terrible. It was garbage. Andrew Schultz. I go, he did an hour on IVF. That's good for 10 minutes, but talk about something else, bro. I just went in on anybody that had a Netflix special. And it clearly was being sarcastic. It clearly was just having fun with it. All because I haven't gotten one. And I named the guy that has told me no, at least that I've been heard as telling no, is a guy named Robbie Pra. And nothing against Robbie. He just hasn't picked me to get a Netflix special yet. So in the interview, I go on everybody. And they would just start naming off names, and then I'd be like, terrible, living off his name, shitty special, garbage. And, you know, Charlamagne and Envy and Justin, they'd be like, oh no, Gary. And then, but it was clearly a joke. And then Charlamagne said, I'm going to clip this up when we air it, and I'm going to definitely send a clip to Donnell and not tell him you went in on everybody. And sure enough, in only Donnell Rollins form, I said, he's not sensitive like that. And Charlamagne goes, oh, he's sensitive. And so I guess Charlamagne called him or sent him a clip of me just going in on Donnell. And I was like, Donnell Rollins. I go, that's just Dave Chappelle's opener. I go, how you wear a necklace with C on it and your last name starts with R? I said, what's that say about you? And then I'm just snapping on him, right? But it was all just jokes, just kidding. I guess Donnell didn't know. So Charlamagne must have sent him the interview or called him and told him Gary Owen went in on you. And Donnell sends me a whole a DM with his phone number. Like, first of all, on one of my posts, Donnell says, this guy's the GOAT. And I said, about time you realize that. Then Donnell said, clearly you don't know sarcasm. I said, oh, I'm the best at that too. So, and then he DM'd me like, you could have called me when I had an issue with you. I called you. We talked about like men. You've had a successful career. When are we going to get the points past the point where we don't have to shit on another comic? And I'm going, oh, he didn't know. Charlamagne didn't tell him. I'm bullshitting. And then I finally had to tell him. I said, yo, Charlamagne must have riled you up. Bro, it was a joke. I went in on everybody. I said, when you see it, you'll realize it. I went in on Dave, Kevin, Chris Rock, anybody that's huge or even mid that had a Netflix special, I went in on, and it was because I don't have one. Donnell didn't get the message, and then I think he saw it. He just gave me like the black fist sign, so I think he acknowledged that. Yeah, he honestly he got played by Charlamagne is what happened, and he took the bait. Similar like when all the people took the bait with Jess Hilarious, thought she got fired from the Breakfast Club, and the whole time it was a big okey doke on the Breakfast Club's part. But when you hear it, I'm anxious to hear people's thoughts on it because I snap on everybody. I don't think it's going to air Friday. Usually they'll do promos. I think it's probably going to air Monday. So this podcast is going to come out on Friday. So I think it's probably going to air Monday. I hope. But yeah. And the Are You Garbage podcast, if you never heard that, that was kind of a dope one. I wasn't familiar with it, but I started watching little clips of it when I found I got booked on it. But yeah, the hosts do a good job. They ask you questions about your upbringing and where you're at now and how your life's changed and how you've overcome things or whatever. And at the end, they can tell you if you're garbage or not. And I was garbage. I'm a piece of shit. That's what they said. They said, do you go up in a trailer park and your stepdad got in a fist fight with your real dad at your wedding? Yeah, you're garbage. So it was a fun one though. It was a good one. I really enjoyed that. I'm glad I did it. So I guess I'll give my Super Bowl prediction now. That's a hell of a segue. I don't know if I've been right at all during these playoffs, but going with Seattle, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Now, it kind of reminds me a little bit of when the Patriots played the Rams years ago when Brady won the Super Bowl. Keep in mind, Brady was a young quarterback. The only difference is the Rams had a juggernaut of an offense. The Seahawks have a juggernaut of a defense. So it's kind of the opposite, but it's similar. Like, I think everyone was picking the Rams to win, and the Seahawks just came in and handled business. So we'll see. I think both these teams have great defenses, and I think Seattle's favored by 4.5. I think they're going to cover. I just think, I think they'll pull away. But you never know. Like Sam Darnold's MO, and he hasn't done in the playoffs, is he's generous. He turns the ball over a lot. And sometimes when the pressure's a lot. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets rattled like C.J. Stroud did, or will he pull it together and Seattle wins? We'll see. So, I'm picking Seattle, the Seahawks. I will say, such a big sports week, right? Got the Super Bowl, and then I know you guys have had to see that fight with Big Baby Miller, the boxer whose toupee flipped up, the hairpiece. If you haven't seen it yet, please look it up. Just like boxer toupee falls off, boxer hairpiece. But these two dudes are fighting. And Miller, he talks shit a lot, right? This guy hit him with the uppercut, and his freaking toupee just went flip-flop, then it came off. And Miller ended up winning the fight, which is funny, but I don't think I've ever seen a toupee fall off in the middle of a fight. There's one of those things, like, you wonder about fighters, boxers, like, does anybody ever have to piss in the middle of a fight? Like, I mean, if you get hit really hard, I would think, I don't know. Never seen a fighter have to piss in the middle of a fight. I've never seen a toupee fly off in the middle of a fight. So it was interesting, to say the least. Here we go. I almost made it 12 minutes with no yawn, but 12-minute mark, here I go. So one thing I saw last week was Tracy Morgan was outside. I don't know if he was at a Knicks game or something, and this guy came up. And I guess the guy was a bully to Tracy Morgan when he was little. And he was asking for something. Tracy Morgan goes, "You don't think I forgot? You think I don't recognize you? I remember everything. And I was like, so there was a debate. Was Tracy Morgan right or was Tracy Morgan wrong? One thing about school bullies, man, they never pan out in life. The guys that skip school, the guys that are bullies, unless they have a complete change of heart, and I guess I don't want to say that. I don't want to say they never pan out in life. Most of the time, they don't pan out in life. And, obviously when Tracy did that, I don't know if I would have did that. There are some people that would have gave the bully money and looked at him like, yeah, remember, you bullied me, and now I'm doing better than you. But I've never seen anybody so vocal about it. Like, I remember everything. You think I forgot? I remember you. And the guy was just like, and I think he's doing bad now. I don't know if he's homeless or just living on the streets. But if anyone knows Tracy Morgan, I don't care what room you put him in, he gonna be Tracy Morgan. Even out in public, he gonna be Tracy Morgan. So, hey, this podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And we all know the big game is this week, the Super Bowl, baby. So, this week on Underdog, I'm looking at the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, 3 touchdown passes. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Darnold's about to ball out, and all those people that said he was a bust is going to have to eat their words. I think he's about to ball out this week. Now, I could be wrong, or I could be right. But we got to wait and see. That's the beauty of the Super Bowl. So with that educated prediction from Gary Owen, listen, what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code GetSome to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. That's promo code GetSome. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 years or older, 19 years older in Alabama or Nebraska, 19 years older in Colorado. For some games, 21 and older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That would be 467-369. Don't forget, Sam Darnold, Seattle, over 3 touchdown passes. Take that how you want to take it. Yeah, I don't know if I would have reacted that way. I do know there was one guy that used to bully me in high school. I don't want to say high school, 1 year of high school. And it was my sophomore year. Yeah, it was my sophomore year. Or was it the beginning of my junior year? He was a year older than me. I know that. I know I was in 10th. This guy, his brother was in 9th, and the bully was in 11th. And then when I was in 12th, he was in 11th. I was in 11th, he was in 12th, his brother was in 10th. So his brother was always cool. But this guy, I don't know what his deal was with me, but it all started in the summer of my sophomore year. So sophomore going into junior year. And I remember we had this crash-up derby at the Butler County Fair in Ohio. And one guy I went to high school with was in the crash-up derby. And I was so geeked. His name was Joe Campbell. I was so geeked because Joe was always cool. And I was more like, dang, this guy's with adults. Because I guess he just turned 16 where I was still 15. And we all sat on the back of this guy's truck. We were standing up. There was like 20 guys in the back of this pickup. And we're all watching the demolition derby, not crash-up, the demolition derby. And everybody there went to my high school. We were all there to see our buddy Joe and root for him. The only difference is everybody on the back of this pickup had on Wrangler jeans, boots, the sleeveless shirts. They were country boys, right? And I hung out with everybody. I hung out with the black guys, the country boys, the suburban guys, the college professor kids. High school, I hung out with anybody. Anybody was cool, I was hanging out with them. So I knew a lot of these guys. Grew up in a trailer park. So rode the bus. You know everybody. And so I never thought nothing of it, what I had on. So I had an Adidas shirt, and it was the time remember, I don't know, people back in the day, remember the Adidas would cover the whole shirt, the big logo, they just came out. And then I had probably like some Umbros, probably had some shell toe Adidas or Jordans on. I just wasn't dressed like everybody else on the back of this pickup. And I remember rooting for Joe, and I remember turning around and looking, and I saw the guy that bullied me on the back of his truck like this, and he had a guy here and a guy here, and they were looking, and I thought, are they talking about me? You know when it's a weird vibe you get when somebody's talking about you, or you think something might go wrong, and that's how I felt. I looked and I go, are they talking about me? It just felt like it. And then I got off, the demolition derby's over, and a bunch of us get off the truck, and the guy goes, hey, and I didn't even know he knew my name, Gary. I look back, he goes, you was on my truck. And I was like, yeah? He was like, it's my truck. And I was like, all right. He goes, don't come on my truck. I was like, all right. I was so confused why he took that moment to tell me not to get on his truck. And I was like, all right. I left there, go, what the fuck was that? And then a couple of guys even saw, I was like, what was that? I go, I don't know, but how you going to tell me to get off your truck when I've already gotten off your truck and it's over? I'm not coming back on your truck. But it was just weird. And then we had this, so I lived in a trailer park. right in front of the trailer park was this little gas station convenience store called Jamie's Market. And I just remember I ran into him at Jamie's Market and he said something else to me, like trying to start shit. And I go, why is this guy always talking shit to me? And I always just paid him no mind because he never like tried to hit me or anything, but he's always like just talking shit. And then okay, at my high school, like any high school, different parts of the high school people would hang out. So right when you walk in this one hallway, it was called the gallery. And the gallery had all the trophy cases, all the banners for all the athletic achievements was in the gallery. But that's where the rednecks hung out. The country boys, the rednecks country boys. And so my locker just happened to be, and all this is sophomore, junior, it just happened to be right by the gallery. So every day I got to go in, and I knew most of the guys. You got the FFA, the Future Farmers of America. I knew most of them, so I never thought nothing of it. But now this dude, every day he's walking by, he's fucking with me. He's like, I don't know, like something like, I don't know. One time he was like talking shit. I look back, he goes, "You ain't gonna do nothing because you're a pussy." And I'm going, why is this guy always talking to me? And then, he's never really talking to me in my face. It's always like I walk by or I'm coming by. But it was like, I don't know if it was most of my sophomore year or junior year. I don't want to mess up the time frame. I think it's my junior year he was really going in. But I was like, what is this guy's problem with me? But I never really engaged them. I never talked back. I never said anything. I would just look at him like, because he never like cornered me or tried to do anything. But he's always talking shit. Well, to me, that was bullying, but it never crossed the line, so to speak. And that's because I didn't pay any attention to him. But I will say, probably about 7-8 years ago, I'm on Facebook and I come across his page. And his life turned out like you would hope your high school bully's life would turn out. He's in a rundown house. It's like cars on blocks. Wife's not very attractive, kind of big. It's just looks dirty. Like sometimes I'll go on social media, guys I grew up with and just people I knew growing up. And I look at the background. I look at their houses. What's going on is there dirty clothes everywhere? Is there dirty dishes in the sink? Do they look clean? The house, it doesn't matter how much money. I'm like, do you take care of what you do have? And clearly this guy looks like he doesn't take care of shit. And I ain't gonna lie, I got a little satisfaction out of it. It's not like I would say anything. That's why I'm not saying his name. It's not like I would make a comment on his page or nothing like that. But I took a little, all right, that's how I thought it would turn out. And it turned out just like that. So yeah, I was a little happy. I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't upset when I saw how his life turned out. Just because he was constant. I was like, dude, what is your deal? I don't really know you. I've never spoken to you. And I think it was more of that day on his truck. I think it was what I was wearing. Honestly, it was just weird because I got along with everybody in high school. He was the one guy. That's odd to me. But I will say there was another, 2 other guys I went to high school with. One, I never found out what happened to him. There's another guy, though, that was a bit of a bully, bit of a jerk. Not really towards me. He was a smart ass, but I saw him be a jerk to other people and pick on people and stuff like that. He ended up being a preacher and very vocal on social media. He's got his little follow. I won't say little follow. He's got a nice following. But I would have never thought that guy would have been a preacher when we was in high school, ever. And now he's all about forgiveness, be good to people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, that wasn't you in high school, bro. At all. I wonder if I ever went to his church, would he say stuff like that in high school? Like, I wasn't a good dude in high school. I did kind of pick on people a little bit. I wouldn't say bully, but he definitely picked on people. Yeah, I wonder. And I also wonder where the quote unquote light came on for him, where the switch came on where he was like, oh, I got to start treating people right. So just a couple things I noticed about that. And yeah, so there's a couple things. Am I wrong for having a little satisfaction of how the bully of mine in high school's life turned out. Am I wrong for that? Is Tracy Morgan wrong for snapping on a bully that bullied him when he was growing up? I think a lot of people say you got to forgive and blah, blah, blah. But, that's a heck of a time in your life. Puberty, coming into your own. You never know what people are going to end up being in life. And, you just can't ever tell. It's always mind-boggling to me when, there's guys I went to high school with, like, one guy's a surgeon. Like, I'm like, Benji is a surgeon? I just would have never guessed. Like some of the people how their lives turn out, you're like, I would have never thought that dude or that girl would have did that. Superintendent of a school or a pilot. I got on a plane one time and a guy I went to high school with was the pilot. I was like, yo, you're flying a plane, Andy? It would just, you never know where life's going to take you at all. There's one particular guy that was a pilot on the plane. He was like, in high school, he did not have his shit together. He was like bottom of his class. He was just like a guy hanging out, basically. Popular guy, but just didn't have his life together. It's crazy how this guy's life turned out. This is how you never know. When I went to boot camp after high school, I went to boot camp and I went on the same day as my buddy Mike and the same day as my friend Amy. Amy, Mike, and me all went to high school together. Now, me and Amy went to boot camp in Orlando. Now, we went to boot camp together at the same time, but, girls are with girls, guys are with guys. I barely saw her in boot camp every now and then. We'd march by and might make eye contact or something. And Mike went up to Great Lakes for boot camp. But Amy, I remember the day before we left to go to boot camp, they put us in this little hotel. And we were on a flight the next day. And I went out to eat with Amy, her mom, and her brother, Andy, who ended up being the pilot. And I just remember this was before 9/11, so you were allowed to see people off at the airport. So the next day, Amy's mom and her brother showed up to say goodbye to her. And I just remember Amy and Andy, they gave each other the longest hug, and they were both bawling. And I was thinking, wow, that was so awesome to see siblings that close. And Amy went off, joined the Navy. Andy stayed back. And Andy was like 2-3 years older than Amy. And he just hadn't done anything since high school. He was just kind of chilling. But when Amy left for boot camp, Andy decided, I got to get my shit together. So he ended up joining the Navy less than a year later. Just enlisted, ended up flourishing in the Navy, ended up becoming an officer in the Navy. I think he went to ROTC at Notre Dame, graduated, became a helicopter pilot in the military, and then ended up being a commercial airline pilot for American Airlines. And I think it all happened for him because he realized his sister went away and was doing something and he wasn't. He's like, I got to get my shit together. And so that's kind of a wild story. A guy that was towards the bottom of his class, barely made it through high school, had the brain power the whole time, but just wasn't applying himself. And it took his sister to go to the Navy for him to realize, oh, I got to get my shit together. I'll join the Navy. Just enlist like everybody else. End up flourishing. ROTC, Notre Dame, helicopter pilot, commercial airline pilot now. What a great story. And Amy and Andy were always so cool to me. Yeah, that was a good story, you know? So you just never know in high school how people are going to turn out. So with that, I'll tell you what I didn't like this week. The Grammys was on. And Jelly Roll wins an award. And he goes up there, and every artist basically just went off on ice. And I get it. A lot of people are upset with ice. I'm not I'm like Jelly Roll. I'm not versed enough. I don't watch enough stuff that I can just denounce something blindly. Or back something blindly. That's why I stay clear of politics a lot. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox. I just try to stay in my lane. I just try to abide by the law. I'm nice to people. Hopefully people are nice to me. And I don't bother people like that. I'm saying that not to say, hey, ICE is right or wrong. I'm just saying that I just live my life. I focus on my woman, my kids, my neighbors, my friends, my family. I focus on that. I focus on making people laugh. And if you want to see a political comedian, go see Bill Maher, go see somebody else. I'm not your guy. I'm more a day-to-day type dude. But what I didn't like is Jelly Roll went up there and gave a freaking passionate speech about it's kind of surreal that he's up here, and there was a time in his life where he just had this little Bible and a radio and a like 6x7 foot cell, 6x8 foot cell. And, but he believed in Jesus, and Jesus doesn't have a political party. Jesus doesn't care what race you are, just all this stuff. Like anybody can have a relationship with Jesus. And people took his moment to give a speech he wants to talk about and said, why don't you bring up ICE? Or he was defending ICE. That's why he said no political party. And people just ruined a good moment. And then Jelly Roll said, I'm a redneck, man. I'm a country boy. He's same thing I say. I'm not versed enough in all this shit to say, do this or don't do that. I just don't want nobody to get hurt. I don't like people getting killed. I just don't want to talk about that shit. And I just felt like, no matter what award show it is, whether it's the Oscars, whether it's the Grammys or anything like that, it's just kind of like easy to say what's going to get the applause break. So like screw ICE, that's going to get the applause break at the Oscars or the Grammys. Because that's the audience there. But I just want to listen to music. I want to enjoy the performances. I want you to thank the people that helped you get there. It seemed like it was just, I don't think people, even some of the people that had said shit, it reeked of, they're just saying it to get a reaction. They don't really know what they're talking about. I saw a couple people I looked at, I'm like, I don't think they really know what they're talking about. So yeah, that's all. It's almost like, when Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar and he talked about global warming, I was like, what? And then, Joaquin Phoenix, he won his Oscar. He talked about like killing cows or animal cruelty or something. I go, what? Just like, I like when Ricky Gervais hosts the Golden Globes and he goes, don't come up here giving a speech and giving your political beliefs and all that. He goes, come get your award, thank your God, thank your family, keep it moving. That's pretty much what Jelly Roll did. So I just don't like how people took that moment. And even now people be like, they'll listen to this and they'll be like, that's so easy for you to say, Gary. How can you say that you have kids of color and you're woman, or they'll be like, your white privilege is showing. I go, no, it's not. I'm just saying, I'm not going to talk about shit that I can't have an educated discussion about and know I'm confident in what I'm talking about. I can't sit there and say who's right or who's wrong. Your head's spinning if you watch CNN and you watch Fox. You don't know what to believe half the time. The internet, I don't know what to believe half the time. I do know I've been fooled enough by the mainstream media that I'm like, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to jump to conclusions every time I hear something. I'm going to refrain. I'll talk to my friends about stuff, friends that aren't going to judge me, friends that aren't going to jump down my throat and say, how dare I believe that? How dare I say that? I want my friends that we can talk and we can have the discussion and come to some kind of middle ground. and respect each other's opinion and be like, oh, I can see that. Oh, I didn't think about that. Because I'm quick to have an open mind on stuff. I'm not that arrogant that I know the way I think is the appropriate way to think, and I'm always right. Trust me, I have learned that a lot, especially over the last year and a half. My girls taught me a lot how to just really focus on not being right and being open to discussions. And, her family's helped me with that. My therapist has helped me with that. So I just hate that they couldn't just take Jelly Roll's speech for what it was. They couldn't just say, that was cool. He was in jail. He found God. Music, he knew it could change people, and he really focused on that. No, that wasn't good enough for some people. They wanted Jelly Roll to speak about ice. And he said, yo, I'm a country boy. I don't know enough to speak about it. It was almost like, I don't know, we talking about bullies. That's bully behavior. That's all it is, bully behavior. Not every person who wins an award has to speak on the hot topic at the time. They're not obligated. If they do, that's on them. I'm not saying, and even if I don't like it, I'm not going to be like, I wish they wouldn't have won the award, or they're a terrible singer, or they're a terrible person. No, I just be like, I just think it's, that audience is going to give you an applause break. And I'm not going to say who the artist was, but there was one artist I go, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just talking to talk to get an applause break. They don't really know what they're saying. And it was obvious. So I just hate that Jelly Roll, who does nothing in his life but speaks positive stuff to people, seems like a nice guy. I know he loves stand-up comedy, so I hope to meet him one day. I'm sure I will. Just seems like a decent human being. And people took his moment and twisted it on him like he did something bad. So I didn't like it at all. But that's just my opinion. So take it for what you want to take it. All right. Well, that's enough. Look, again, Brooklyn this Saturday. First time in Brooklyn, baby. Can't wait, the King's Theater. So come on out, and I'll see you guys Saturday. If not, I'll see you next time I'm close to your city. All right, y'all. This is Gary with the GetSome Podcast.
This motherfucker Gary.